So let's try this again. So sorry about that. My last live got interrupted due to a call. My screen went out. We're starting this basically all over again. So I'm in the current process of market prepping. One of the things I want to make, I have 3 markets. I want to make coffee cozies and keep working on baby headbands. I'm not only trying to restock my market, I'm also trying to restock a store. So I need to make a lot of product in various colors. But I do have a friend, another watcher, who asked me to do a coffee cozy tutorial. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do one start to finish, and then I'm going to keep out cranking out coffee cozies. Eventually, once I feel like I have enough colors of the ones that I want to make, I will then switch over to baby headbands. In the entire process, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I like to do things in a factory, like a production line, so I like to do the same stuff all the time. I don't always have my machine to crank with me, so I like to crank out as much as I can at night and then work on the other things throughout the day while I'm at work, resting, watching TV, etc. So that's what we're going to do now. So the coffee cozies I make look like this. They mainly have a knit, there's a double knit tube, and then there's a crocheted edge. There are other closing methods. I do like the single crochet method that I use to close it because it still allows the pattern to have some give, the coffee cozy to have give. This allows you to put it in bigger cups like Trentas, Ventas, and Ventis, things like that from Starbucks, and other size cups, right? Ideally, you don't want to put this on a cup that has a stem because this will be in the way of it. There is no opening slit. There are ways around that, but this particular pattern does not have a slit for a mug. This is strictly for coffee cups. Okay. The first thing you're going to do is use waste yarn. I'm going to do kind of like a quick tutorial on how to wind your machine, or I don't even know what I can't words right now. I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to add thread to the machine, how to start off your knitting. So I'm going to be using something called waste yarn. It's called waste yarn because it's not part of the actual product. This is what it's going to look like after. Yeah, this is what it looks like now. We're using the waste yarn to hold our stitches in place. We will be collecting these stitches when we start to crochet, and I'll go into depth with that as well. This is not an in-depth tutorial in regards to how to start, this is casting on. That's the term I was looking for. I'm going to show you how to cast onto your machine. I will make other tutorials later on. This is for someone who's more or less accustomed to knitting machines, whether addi, central, whatever. This pattern works on all of those. You will need the smaller 22 needle machine. This is a 22 needle addi, and central has their own version, I think, of 22 or 24 needles as well. Same process, same concept, just different caliber machine, right? One's sturdier than the other. I'm going to leave a little tail, and I'm going to loop my thread onto the very first black needle. It should be number 1 on your machine, as it is on mine. We're going to stop and start in the same needle because we want our tube to be straight. We don't want it to be off center. If you start and stop at different needles throughout the machine, your tube will be twisted with this method. So you want to be sure you're staying and starting at the same needle, which is number 1. Your yarn is going to get hooked onto that needle. So you're placing the tail of your yarn on the right side and you're hooking it so that it lays on the left side. Okay. You're going to go behind and in front to make sure that every other needle catches yarn. So I'm in front of number 1, behind number 2, in front of 3, behind 4, and so on. Back and forth. You can see how you can see the yarn on every other needle. That is why one is behind, one is in front, one is behind, one is in front. You're going to go all the way around until you reach that first black needle again. Generally, you can tell if you did it correctly if when you reach the black needle, you're in front of it again. That's what you want. You should be in front. Once I see the first black needle pop up again like it is now. I don't know if you guys can see that it's elevated slightly. We're going to put our yarn into the feeding tray right here, the gold part. I opened it and I'm going to close it again. There's a little hole that you can't see from this angle, but I'm placing my yarn inside that hole. I'm closing this. I'm going to also reset my row counter because now that the waste yarn has been, or excuse me, no. Pause. Rewind that last part. I'm just placing it into my feeder. I didn't have to restart my row counter because we're still going to crank out roughly 5 to 6 rows of waste yarn. I prefer 5 or 6. Some people say at least 3. Honestly, 2 more rows is not going to kill you. Yes, it's a few more cranks, but it's okay. I'd rather make sure that my project is safe than having to lose stitches and have to redo it. So I'm going to crank out. That's already 1 row, so I'm going to crank out, like I said, 4 to 5 more. That's 3, 4, 5. Okay. I'm going to cut my waste yarn with a little tail so that if I use it again, which I most likely will, I have leverage and I'm not playing yarn chicken. My waste yarn, I stopped at my first black needle and it's going to be on the left side of my hook. I keep calling my needle the hook. They're needles because it has a little hook to it. Same thing. A needle is just sharp. This is the hook. Now, I'm rotating the machine away from me, so my stitches are going in a counterclockwise motion. That is very important. If you're rotating towards you instead of against you, you will need to place your yarn in different sides. That's why I say this current live tutorial is not the most in-depth for beginner because there are certain things that you need to be mindful of. Okay? That was just waste yarn. Now we're going to start on the actual project. Now I need to reset my row counter. I got ahead of myself last time, and that's okay. It happens. As long as you do it when it matters, finally. Okay? I'm using this burgundy-ish brown color because I'm going to be making pink coffee cozies. Ideally, you want the yarn color to be contrasting. As you can see here, the stitches pop out to you. I was using white yarn earlier for this pink, and it was very difficult to see. Obviously, if the light is on, yes, but you're not always somewhere where it's well lit. Like I said, I tend to crochet while I'm at work throughout the day. Lighting isn't always the best. So I like to use contrasting colors. Now, because the closing method for this like for my pattern uses a very long tail, I'm going to wrap the yarn around my hand 7 times. On average, or generally, a wrap around my hand is about 10 centimeters. 10 to 20? I don't remember. I think that's 10 inches. Not centimeters, correction. 10 inches. So you'll need roughly 70 inches of tail. So take that as you will. You're more than welcome to mimic me. That's just the way I've realized it. I'm not going to sit here with a measuring tape to measure. My hand has just always been a reference point to me. And again, in other tutorials, even formal tutorials, that will most likely be the case. Okay, so again, we're going to wrap this around my hand 7 times. Everyone's hand is different, understandably. I also like to leave a loose tension. If you want to cater on the more cautious side, wrap it 10 times if you feel your hands are smaller than me. I know my hands are generally larger for a woman. We're going to leave it at that because I'm rambling. So I'm going to wrap this around my hand 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And again, that just gives me a very nice long tail and it keeps it confined at the same time. So you're doing 2 birds and 1 stone, right? You don't want your tail to be loose and getting tangled and all that good stuff. So this allows it to do that. Now, placement. Your waste yarn was on the left side of your hook. We're going to be adding the working yarn, because this is our working yarn, what we're going to be using, onto the right side of the hook while it still catches. Okay, we're going to place it into the threader without losing any of the length that we allowed. Okay, so that's in here. I like to give both of the threads a nice little tug, and if you can see, again, it's on either side of the needle. I slowly crank to make sure both are being held down by the needle, and then again, same way you were cranking with the waste yarn, you're going to continue to crank with the You're just going to continue cranking, making sure that the others catch so that you know you place your yarn correctly. Rule of thumb, you want to crank the first few rows slowly so that you make sure that your working yarn is being held properly by the machine and no stitches are dropped when you're transitioning between waist and working yarn. Okay. On top of that, I will be using an adapter to crank. I will not be cranking this manually. I only do the first few rows, if that sometimes, manually. I'm going to be using a drill with an adapter for your addi. This adapter works both on this addi and the Addi King, which is a 46 needle. Okay. I see I have some questions, so before I start cranking, I'm going to go ahead and look at those. I tried going live earlier. I got a call and it dropped my live, so we're starting over. But just bear with me, please. Let's see. Hey, Sandy. Nice. She heard me thinking of her. Hey, Mary. You're processing a deer? Like the animal deer? Okay. So yeah, so 10 inches is approximately 30 centimeters. And again, that's 7 times around my hand. Yeah, no, mine are fairly like, and I have long fingers too, so that doesn't help. It is hunting season. It's hunting season and it's crochet season. All right, so back to the tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and use my adapter. If you guys have any questions in regards to these, where you can find them, that kind of thing, please feel free to leave a comment down below. The total number of rows I will be having for my working yarn is 45. Generally, when using worsted weight yarn, which is what I'm using, that's a size 4 yarn, 5 rows on your knitting machine of any size is equivalent to 1 inch on average, depending on tension, whatever. So with me using 45 rows, the total length of my tube will be 9 inches. And then because I do fold it in half, that'll be roughly 4.5 inches in height of my coffee cozy. The width is going to be determined by the tube, which only uses the 22 needle. Okay, if you did this on the bigger addi, your width will be a lot wider. Keep all of that in mind. Again, 45 rows of working yarn. This is going to be a solid piece, so there will be no color changing. You are able to change color if you so choose. I can share that pattern in the comments if anyone cares for it. I normally do even-sized stripes that you can alternate, and then you can adjust accordingly. But that could be another video, maybe in a formal video. If any of you have watched my other like Vlogmas videos, you know that I'm just working through the week and I decided to share the process along with you guys. When using a drill adapter, you want to make sure you're not cranking too hard or too fast, because sometimes that click you hear every row, that's the counter catching. If you're spinning or cranking too fast, it will not catch and a row will not be counted. For whatever reason, if your row is not counted, keep count of the rows that were not counted so you can subtract that from your goal, right? So for instance, let's say I said I needed 45 rows. For whatever reason, if 5 rows were not counted, I will only wait until the counter gets to 40 because I know that 5 of those, again, were not counted. Lastly, remember to stop at the black needle. This is my 44th row, so I'm going to slow down now. I only have 22 needles to go through. If I spin too quickly or crank too quickly, I will miss my mark. While for some patterns, it's not the end of the world. You can go 1 or 2 rows extra, that's okay. But depending on the pattern that you're doing, you can crank out too many. If you crank out 5 or 10 too many, again, you're adding length, and that may mess up or vary your pattern drastically. Okay, so I'm going to go nice and slow for this last row. And I'm going to stop at the black needle like I just did here. This is white, this is black. Okay. Now, I do not need a long tail towards the end. I just need something that I can use to tie off. So generally, I just kind of pull it back some. This is roughly like 5 or 6 inches, and I just give it a nice little snip. Okay. Again, when you're changing colors or even changing between working and waste yarn, you want to make sure that you're putting in the old yarn behind or into the middle. Okay, I didn't mention that earlier. And then, let's see, I have, down here I have yarn, waste yarn that I've already used before. I'm going to use it again. I like to generally ball it up like this and then just take it down. Okay, so again, the yarn, the working yarn or the yarn that I just had is going to be on the left side of the black needle. And then the new yarn that I'm introducing, which will be my waste yarn this time around, it was the opposite when we first started, is going to be on the right side. Okay, I'm making sure that my yarn is in my feeder. I'm closing it, and I'm going to give it a little tug so that both colors are down into the tube, and cranking slowly to make sure, looking at my needle to make sure that it grabs both of them. Needle, hook, whatever the phrase is. All right, I'm going to go slowly again just to make sure that everything is fine. There's no issues, nothing drops. And then again, because I know this is what I've used before in the past, I know this is my 5 to 6 rows, I can just keep cranking. Now, technically, because this is waste yarn, you don't need to stop and start at the same exact place because this is going to get removed. We stopped and started where we needed to for the pattern. The pattern is complete at this point. I'm going to drop my yarn into the tube just like I did every other time, except now I'm not adding in any colors. As you go cranking the work, it will fall off, okay? This is how you take your work off of the machine. I'm going to give it a tug because it's still stuck. There's one hook that still has yarn. I'm going to take it off. Okay, so this is the actual project. I'm going to give it a nice little tug just so that the stitches fall into place. And this is going to be the final width of my project. Okay, this side here, which is the part that we just took off the machine, I'm going to flip towards the bottom where this working yarn is. Okay, so I'm literally in the middle and flipping. Okay, why am I doing that? I want to connect this end of the tube to the other end of the tube. Okay, not only that, but I want to make sure that I'm here. So this is the start and end. I want to make sure that you guys see this very clearly. I'm probably going to change angles so that I'm closer to the camera. I'm looking for my needle that I have not taken out yet. Or did I? We'll soon find out. No, my needle, at least the one I was using, is not in here. So let me find that really quickly. Because what is a crocheter except for someone who loses her needle? Okay. Needle. I'm going to be using a Susan Bates 5.5. So US I9 5.5 millimeter hook. I'm going to share this with you guys in a second. I'm just going to go around so that I know you see what I see. Let me see. I might flip you guys. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to bring you on this end here. I was going to stand behind the camera, but my back will not allow that, even after my procedure today. So I'm just going to grab this white little mat so you have a clear or like basic surface. Let me just move the camera around. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Now that I know you can actually see what I'm doing, let's try this again. So this is the work that we had. This is what we worked up on our machine. Okay. Hi, Sarah. No, I got a facet block. It's for my spine. It should help keep me forward in regards to waiting for my actual nerve ablation. Okay. Can everyone see what I'm doing right now? If I didn't drop anything, that'd be nice. Okay. So as you can see here on this tube in the back, you have a higher stitch and a lower stitch. This was the last stitch that we had on the machine. If you come down here, it's the same thing. You have a lower and a higher, but it's the opposite. We want these to match up. You want the lowest to match with the highest, and you want the highest here to match with the lowest. Okay? This part is crochet. If you do not know how to crochet, it is not the end of the world. You would just want to use a different method in regards to your coffee cozy. Okay? I will be doing single crochets all the way around in addition to standard slip stitches. If even the beginner crocheter can do these stitches, okay? The only difference is that you're going to be picking up your knitted needle, your knitted stitches, okay? I'm going to start on the one on the right side, or the layer closest to me, because this is my working yarn. This was that really long tail that we had at the beginning, okay? I'm picking up this stitch, and I'm picking up the lowest stitch on the layer below us, or below, and then I'm picking the highest stitch on the one on top, or the one behind, excuse me, words. All right, so I'm picking that up. I use my nail to help. The first few are kind of difficult. I'm grabbing my working yarn. I'm going to feed it through both loops, and I'm going to do a single crochet. You will have one loop on your needle going forward now on. Okay? Now, you're going to pick up the same way we picked up from the front one first, And then the back, we're going to do that all the way around. You're going to be picking up the next loop from the bottom, just the top, just the furthest one out. You're not getting any of these other loops. You want this loop. This row of loops is what you're working with. Same thing for top. In the back, I keep calling it top and bottom because that's what I'm used to. But this is the front, that's the back. Or this is top, this is bottom. I might interchange. But you want this row of loops only. You don't care for any of the others. This is the one you care about for this panel or for this side. And then this is the one you care for this one. I hope that makes sense. This is why I don't do tutorials. Okay, we're picking up from the bottom first and picking up from the same one on top. We're going to pull through both stitches. You have 2 loops on your crochet hook. You're going to loop over and then pull through both. That is your single crochet. We're going to repeat this again with less rambling on my part. You're picking up your first loop from the bottom, picking up the opposite loop on the top, yarn over, pull through both loops. You now have 2 loops. You're going to yarn over one last time and then pull both loops again. Again, this is a single crochet. We're going to single crochet all the way through until we get to the end. Okay, and when we get closer to the end, I'll start again. But one last time, I'm going to just show you what I'm doing. These were the last 2 loops we just picked up. I'm not doing any looping over or anything here. I'm going to just take my needle through the very next loop on the bottom and the very next loop on the top, yarn over, pull through. Okay, this gives me the 2 loops that I need for my single crochet. So I'm going to yarn over one last time and pull through both. All right, so we're going to continue to single crochet all the way through. Or all the way around, excuse me. Being very mindful to only pick up the necessary stitches on either top or bottom or front and behind, whatever term you prefer, but just making sure you're picking up the proper loops. If you do not pull on the proper loops, this will unravel. So that is why I'm stressing it. If you work too quickly, you may make a mistake, pull and grab the inappropriate loop, and it will cost you. And because this is a 22 needle and no stitches were dropped, you should have equal stitches on both the top and the bottom. For whatever reason, if you get to the end and you do not have another loop either on the top or the bottom, you made a mistake and you skipped a loop at some point and you need to frog your crochet and go right back to 0 where you started. Now we're reaching the end because here is our starting. Here's all of our tails, right? Our working tails, the waist yarn tail, all that good stuff. I'm going to finish up the last few until I may be 1 or 2 away. Okay, now there's 3 loops on the top and the bottom left. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I did not miss any stitches on either top or bottom. For reference, there could be an extra loop here or one less up here. Then I know I must have done something wrong. That was not the case, so I'm good to continue. Okay? Now, I say I like to stop here because sometimes this yarn is buried inside your tube from when you flipped it over. So I'm going to make sure that it's out as well as my waist yarn. Okay? Because I will use this to tie off and finish the project. So now that it's out, I can continue. Okay, last single crochet. Now that I'm at this point, I have no more loops or hooks to go through. So what I'm going to do is, at the very beginning, we did a single crochet, and then we did our first, we did a chain and then a single crochet. I'm going to take both my working yarn and the tail that we cut off at the end, and I'm going to have both of these now become one single yarn or one single thread. Okay, so both tails are now my working yarn. I'm going to place my needle through the very top stitch here. You can distinguish the stitches by the V's. The same way knitting has V's, so does crochet. This is our very first single crochet. So I'm going to slide my needle through here, and I'm going to do a slip stitch with my double thread here. Slip stitch. So I'm slipping it through that last single crochet that we did. And then to finish this off, I'm going to do a chain, but pulling it all the way through. That is a knot. We are knotting this off. I'm giving it a nice tug because sometimes it's still loose. And now I'm going to tie it off just for extra security. That chain should have knotted it off for us, but a few knots never hurt anyone, right? Now we need to remove the waste yarn from either side. The inside should be fairly easy to take out. You just want to find the tail and pull. Again, I'm just wrapping it around my hand so that I can put it away and reuse it for another coffee cozy. It gets a little tight because there is yarn on the inside of that. I like to leave this little tail and just kind of wrap around, and I have a little mini skein here now. This won't get tangled and I can reuse it for other projects. Now, the outside one can be a little tricky. So the trick to it is to take the end, right? This is not the end. This is attached to the working yarn. So I know that's not the end. The end will be up here with the rest of the waste yarn. As you pull, you can see that there's a piece that's kind of moving along, or a yarn that's moving along. You see how here it's loose, and then as I pull it, this loop gets smaller. That's the same loop that I'm pulling. So I will pull it through all of these loops. Again, I'm going to pull it to find it amongst all of these, and then I'm going to pull it through. What you're doing is releasing that yarn from all these loops, and it'll be easier to remove or undo the loops. Right? Once it's free, you should be able to tug freely without any knots, similar to that first row. So again, I'm just going to loop it around to just put it away. And then once I get close to the end where I have to kind of pull, I leave this out and then just make my little mini skein. Okay. So this is more or less what we're left with, okay? Like any good fiber artist, we need to now tuck in our tails, okay? Or put away our weave in our ends, okay? So I'm just gonna cut right here. It doesn't need to be super long. I'll show you how I weave. I don't do anything intricate or whatever. I just honestly hide it. It doesn't matter. But what I will say is that around here, sometimes there could be like a little gap or an opening, like here, right here. Because that first stitch, we only did a chain. Everywhere else, we did a single crochet. So it looks cleaner or fuller. I don't know how to explain it, but I like to take my needle around that same row. So this is where that hole is, right? Or the bigger opening. So what I like to do is in the same crochet up here, in that same chain, I'll put my needle through here, and then I'll grab the tails, and then I'll just pull through. So at the very least, the waste yarn or our ends are kind of like covering that opening. And then that's it. That's our coffee cozy. Again, this can be used with the single crochet. It gives it slack. If you were to just do a standard slip stitch, you're not going to have this give that the single crochet is giving you, okay? That is why I do single crochet. You can also do a half double crochet if you'd like. That also allows more stretch, but that is more yarn. So I feel like the single crochet is more than enough. I don't have a cup or bottle around me just yet, but I do have this can, and I'll show you. You can just slide it on underneath. I like to call this the bottom, so this is the top, okay? The wider or the more you stretch it, the narrower it is going to get, because that's just the amount of yarn that you have. Once you let it go, it will lose that. It'll kind of just like bounce back. If you pull it tight, the stitches will get tight again. If you pull it this way, they'll get wide and loosened. Okay? That's it. That's how you do it. If you'd like, I sometimes like to put, not sometimes, for my items that I'm selling, I do like to put a tag on here with my business name, and that's what's in the thumbnail. So I see I'm behind on comments, so I'm going to quickly read that to see what you guys have, and then I'm going to just be making a production line of these so that I can have some. So if you guys have any questions or want me to repeat any parts, now is the time to ask, because one, I do already have 2 here waiting to get crocheted up, but then I will be cranking out a lot more. So let's see what I've missed. I'm bringing you back to your scrunchie, Sandy. Yeah, I know the crochet portion can be a little bit, but again, it's for a particular reason, right? And then when you do a single crochet, it kind of mimics the V anyways, so it helps kind of distinct, like, it's not too noticeable that you're switching from knit to crochet, and I like that. So that's one of the main reasons why I also do the single crochet. Do you ever put in the row another color so that it releases easier? I'm not sure what you mean, Sandy. Can you elaborate a little bit more? For the waste yarn, with the method that I use, I generally don't have an issue for it. While that was darker, you can kind of see it in lighter colors. So let me see. I have here kind of like a blend. I'll do it with the blend for this next round so you can see what it would look like. Okay. I'm gonna remove this. And now you guys will have a different angle as well, so that should also help with like the tutorial aspect of it. So you're gonna get an overhead view of how it looks on the machine. All right, so this is gonna be my new waste yarn. Okay, so it's like a marbled color, so you should be able to see it a little bit better. I'm gonna start at my black needle again, my black hook, excuse me. I have a little tail, doesn't have to be super long, it can be short. And we're gonna do every other, okay? If you notice, I started on my right and then I pushed it into my left. With me cranking away from me, this is important because that is the direction in which my needles are traveling. So this is in front and it's getting hooked. This is behind and it's not getting hooked. We're in front at 3, behind on 4. In front at 5, behind at 6, in front at 7. All the way around. When you reach your black needle again, the pattern dictates that you put it in front. At this point, you're going to place this into your threader, like I mentioned, with the yarn still being behind that last white needle. Okay, we're closing this. If you do not close it, the needles or the hooks can hit it, so you want to make sure it's nice and closed. We're going to crank out roughly 5 to 6 rows of the waist yarn now. It's moving because it's not latched on to anything, so I do apologize. That's route 3, 4, 5, 6. I also like to look at the yarn on the machine. Is it loose? Is it tight? Does it look uniform? Generally, when it's uniform like this, it's because you're using uniform pressure or tension, and I know I'm not going to be dropping any stitches. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this really quickly. Again, it doesn't have to be right here. I do prefer to give it some slack or some length just so that I know when I go to reuse this again, it's not going to, I don't have to play yarn chicken. I have some leeway. We're going to use the same pink again. And while it's not as obvious, it's still a contradicting color, so you will still be able to see our stitches towards the end. So again, I'm going to wrap this around my hand 7 times with my hand loose so that I have more surface area and more length to my working yarn at the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Our waist yarn ended up on our left side of the black hook, hook number 1. This will be on the right side of our hook and into the threader. This is going into the tube. Okay, we're closing this up. And here, from this angle, you can see the 2 colors better now and how they're on either side. You want to give it a little tension, not a lot. Some people like to use weights. I tend to just be very careful to make sure that the hook grabs both. And then I start to crank. All right. Now, you heard it crank just once here. This, now we can start our, we can clear the row counter. And we should be at 0 all the way across because we have 0 rows of working yarn. I have a few comments, so let me see what this says here. Oh, great tip. Cool, thanks for sharing again. Waist yarn. Michelle, I'm just here searching the internet to see if there's a place around here to buy sweet potatoes because I got sweet potatoes from our Walmart a week ago and they're moldy already. Ew. Yeah, I feel that. So you do a couple of rows of waist yarn and then 1 row of another color, and then you pull off that row, that 1 row and the rest. Okay, you can, to me that's just an extra step and another chance to drop stitches. With the method that I know, you're basically just doing that same thing. You're pulling out that last row, but if you realize how to find that last row, you don't need to switch colors an extra time for that tip. While it is helpful, to me, I feel like it's just a waste. If you know what that's doing, then you know how to do it without using that. Does that make sense? So again, we cleared our row counter. We're going to crank out 45 rows of this pink yarn. My tension is light. I'm literally just using my fingers to hold the yarn to make sure that there aren't knots coming up. Hey, Maria. Okay, I'm at 44 rows now. I'm at my black hook, so I'm going to go very slowly for this last row to make sure I do not miss that black hook. All right, and already we're here. So, like I said, we do not need a long tail for this, but I do like to give myself some leeway so that I can have something to tie off at the end. So, again, anywhere between 5 to 6 inches, even 4 is fine. I'm going to switch back over to the multicolored waste yarn, like I said. So, you see I just have it cut here from the machine, and it wants to be picked up by this black needle. I'm going to open my threader, take the yarn out, my old working yarn, take it out and put it into the center. Naturally, it is going to be on the left side of the hook. Now, the waste yarn is going to go on the right side of the hook, and we're going to be placing it into the threader. Again, a small tail, not anything crazy. You want to close the feeder and give this a light little tug. Some people, when they're starting out, they like to hold it while cranking just to ensure that it's picked up by the hook. But for me, I can generally tell, and I go very slowly to make sure that it is. The rest will continue to grab the waste yarn. And again, now I know I had 45 rows, so I can just keep going for another 5 to get to 50 for my waste yarn. All right. With your waste yarn, you can honestly stop and start anywhere else because I do want to reuse this. I like to stop at the first black needle again. Just cutting my waste yarn again to give myself slack. Now you can place this into the center. And then as we go cranking, because there is no working yarn anymore, it will fall off the machine. There is another method to cast off, and that is to pick up stitches around here that are starting to kind of drop. I personally do not like that. I think it's very time consuming, and honestly, I have so much yarn that I do not care to use. I don't mind using it as waste yarn that's been given to me, that's been gifted, etc. And as you saw, it fell off on its own. It fell off. Sometimes you might have 1 or 2 hooks that are just so holding on to your life. You can go back and take it off manually like I did the first round, but this one fell off nice and clean. I'm going to place this on the floor now. So we're back at it. We're back to square one. All right, I'm going to pull it, give it a nice little tug to make sure that everything is nice and tight. I do that so that when we turn it, I don't get like this weird little bump. And it's nice and taut here. All right, again, this was our working yarn. This was the end that we took off the machine, excuse me. I'm going to kind of open up the tube and flip this inside. The top part or the end part of the tube that has no working yarn. Okay? I like to have the back side slightly higher, so the back is the top and the front is the bottom. Okay? Here, the contrast is not as high, so you can't see the pink stitches that well. This is why I say also working with a higher contrast, while they are different colors and I can see them, working with light versus dark or opposite colors in the wheel does help, because now it's going to be a little bit more strenuous on my eyes to see where that pink row is. But again, the very top pink row and the very bottom on the very top row on the top and the very bottom row on the bottom will be the stitches we're picking up. Again, you kind of have this tail on top and this tail here on the bottom. And then as you can see here, I'm already starting to drop stitches here. So I should have probably done a few more rows of waste yarn, to be honest. So I need to be mindful of this last stitch here because I may drop it. So I'm going to kind of just give this a little tug here to make sure that's being held in place. All right. And then as our first tutorial mentioned, you have this is the high end, this is the low end. On the top, on the bottom, we have this is the low end, that's the high end. All right. I will be starting with this first stitch and this first stitch, the lowest and the highest. Lowest on the bottom, highest on the top. I'm going to pick up this yellow here, or excuse me, this pink here, and this pink stitch here. Only the pink. I'm going to grab my working yarn from the very beginning, that excess tail that we left ourselves, and I'm going to pull it through both loops and then chain one. Okay? That V that we looked at earlier, that is that V. All right? I'm going to go carefully because I can't see now. All right? Going through the bottom first, going through to the very next loop of the bottom, and then the very next loop on top. All right? From the desired row of loops I mentioned. So we have 3 loops right now on our needle. We're going to chain over and pull through the first 2 loops, which is what's being held by the waste yarn. We now have 2 loops on our needle. We're going to waste over again and pull through both. That is a single crochet. Again, you get a nice little V with the single crochet that works with conjunction of the knitted V's below it. All right, next 2, bottom loop first, top loop next. Loop over, pull through 2 loops on hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. Okay? Again, this is a single crochet. I'm not going to really talk much more. You saw this earlier. Same thing, not changing. Okay? Loop through, pick up. While this is a marbled yarn, for some reason it's yellow all the way through. I can actually try to make this lower too. I just want to make sure I'm on frame. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep going through. Bottom loop, top loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Okay, we're coming around towards the end here. So I not only need to be careful now for this last loop, but also for the working yarn, the other end of the working yarn. Okay? So I'm just being mindful of that. So let's look here as well, right? We have one set here, one set here, and then for the untrained eye, we just have the one here. Where is that last loop? It's down here, loose. Okay, so again, we've evened out. We have 1, 2, 3 single crochets left to do. Because I know this was loose, I know this is my missing loop, right? But for whatever reason, if this wasn't actually here and I was missing one, at some point I skipped over a loop on top. Okay, so that's how you know more or less if you're doing what you need to be doing correctly. Let me grab my working yarn and stop unraveling. That would be helpful. So we have 1, 2, and then 3. This is one here, and then with the back one, it's this right here. All right, that's it. We're gonna pull through, loop over, pull through. Okay, so now I have a lot of mess going on right here. We're going to combine our 2 pink tails into one working yarn now. And then, like I said, that first V that you see, that was our chain. We're going to slip stitch into that. I'm pulling this taunt because it would be loose otherwise, because they're in 2 starting places, right? So I'm going into our first V, which is our chain stitch, looping over, pulling through, and then I'm pulling through again for that slip stitch. Okay, I'm going to yarn over and pull through both, and that'll cause a knot for us. I'm going to tie it off again like I did last time. All right, 2 knots should be more than enough. This is already loose, and like I said, the inside one is generally easy to work with. So I'm just going to wrap that up and put it away for now. Again, there is going to be some trouble. It's a little taunt, but it just pulls right through. Putting this away with my little skein. Now, Sandy, here we are where we were before, correct? You have this tail here, and then there should be another tail, but actually we can't see it because it's inside. Oh no, right here. This is the other tail. This is still attached to the working yarn or the right yarn. So this is a tail that we want to pull. As you go pulling on this tail, right? This is the direction I had it in before. As you go pulling on it, you will see that it will start to move. Can you see that? Do you see how this tail is moving? You want to grab that moving strand and pull it free. Okay? Again, it's moving. This moving yarn is the one we want to pull. You want to release it from these loops. Once it's been released from the loops, then you can pull it free like we did the inside end. Again, I'm just moving a few loops down, a few stitches down, and I'm pulling through. You can see how the loops stay more or less in the same place if you pull softly, and you can catch it moving easier. So I'm just going to pull through. Okay. Once you've pulled through all your loops will be exposed. Now this end here, as you can see, it's pulling out just the loops because there is nothing holding on to it. That color change you would have needed to do, honestly, Sandy, it's unnecessary. If you're just careful, you'll be able to catch it right away. With practice, I don't even need to look at it. I just feel it. When I'm pulling it initially, I can feel it with the hand that I'm pulling, I'll use the other hand to sense the moving thread or the moving yarn, and I'll pull it out. With practice, it becomes easy. Now, if you feel comfortable switching, by all means, do whatever you feel comfortable with. Personally, I feel like it's not necessary. You're more than capable to do it without it. It's just a matter of practice and knowing the proper technique. Okay. Yeah, that's just another way to get rid of waste yarn. I know some people cut. I would not cut, because then you can cut your working and then that'll be bad. So yeah. Again, we're done. I don't know if maybe you'll be able to see that opening that I was mentioning a little bit better. There's kind of an opening here, but then to be fair, there's openings everywhere else, right? But I don't know, just personal preference on my end. Again, our single crochet, the V that creates vertically matches the knit stitches, and then the V's for the top of the single crochet looks very nice and cohesive. So that's why I personally choose to do single crochets across, on top of the fact that it allows for flexibility. As we all know, crochet is very three-dimensional and lacks a lot of stretch, while knit is two-dimensional but has an enormous amount of stretch. This stitch does not hinder the rest of the coffee cozy from expanding, and it can even expand wider if the cup has a wider brim than it does a bottom. Okay, now I'm just going to feed this through with my very crochet hook. You're more than welcome to use a tapestry needle, not particularly necessary. Your hook is going to generally want to pop up here in the hole. I like to go through that first V again and then just slide it through all the way down until the ends are lost inside there. For whatever reason, if it's poking out, if you pull it through, it'll just fall within the coffee cozy. And there you have it. Let me know if you guys have more questions. I will be making more of these. As of right now, I now have 5 pink. I'm going to switch over to do burgundy. Okay. I'm also going to bring this up more. And just give me 1 second because my partner messaged me. I want to make sure that he is okay. Okay, let's see. Hey Maria, it looks like an old school projector for movies. I'm just waiting for the movie to start while you hypnotize me. Do you count rows? This one does have a row counter. Yeah. I personally don't like picking up loop from loop off the machine. I think it's frustrating to me, and if you go too fast, you drop too many, and then you can have things unwind on you, and I prefer to use the waste yarn because of that. And additionally, again, because I tend to work on factory production, I'm quicker using waste yarn. While yes, you're using more materials and whatever, but I can have these sitting around for months. I had 2 or 3 left over from last season that were just sitting around, and I had no issues or had to worry about not having any of this. You know what I mean? Or having drop stitches or anything like that. It's great for storage, and again, it helps with my factory production line that I like to do when I'm working. When I tell you I have a handful made, like I have a handful made. There's 4 green here. There's 3 or 2 navy, 1 black. We now have 3 pink. And these are completely done, by the way. I have 4 mustard. I have 2 gray, 2 burgundy, and then 3 tan. So that's 2, or excuse me, that's 4, 3, that's 7, 10, 14, 16, 18, 21. I have 21 of these done already in the last 2 days. These are all $5. I'm looking at $505 or $105 in merchandise just on this little table alone. They're quick works. They're great add-ons. People want to get coffee cozies. They can kind of just add it on as like a stocking stuffer to match. Maybe do like neutral colors, kind of like the tan and the forest. It is a nice unisex present as well. So I try to get a lot of these done so that, again, it's just a nice little add-on. And then if someone does do a really large purchase, sometimes I'll even add it as a gift with purchase in a separate color so that they can see what that color looks like. Maybe they were hesitant on it. Like if someone gets mustard, I might give them tan. Or if someone gets navy, I might give them the forest. They're similar but contradicting, and they still work well together. So I'm going to kind of put these off to the side for now. Like I said, I only have 2 of the burgundy. I'm going to go ahead and work up some more of those because I do have some burgundy yarn right next to me. Again, while I'm working on this, please feel free to ask me any questions you may have. As of right now, I will just continue to start cranking, but I can start closing some off. I would prefer not to, just so that I can keep cranking. But again, I'd rather help you how I can. So if you do have a question, please feel free. How long does it take you to make each one? Well, how long have we been on live for? Does it say? It's been an hour. I think start to finish. I know cranking one out without like stopping to talk for the tutorial, I can do in like 2 to 3 minutes. And then the crochet part is another maybe 5 to 10. So it's an under 20-minute project for sure. Even if you're a novice crocheter. But this is something that a novice can do. The only crochet stitches you'll need to have, or you'll need to know, is a chain single crochet and then a slip stitch, which is generally in every beginner pattern. I'm looking for my hook that holds the machine in place so that it's not moving. I do not recall what I did with it in my haste earlier, but I know it cannot be far because I have not moved. Daisy, are you sitting on it? No, you're not. How silly of me to ask. All right, let me move you up a little higher. I know it's not far, it's around here. Ooh. I'm trying to see if it fell anywhere. Mm-hmm. I love how I just lose things so quickly. Daisy, what did I do with the mount thing? It's not on the floor. It's not in my bag. Not in my yarn bag. Not in my crochet bag. Okay. I guess I will be continuing without it and hope that I find it while I go throughout the way. Okay. We're going to keep cranking. And Maria, you're more than welcome to time me to see how long it takes to crank one out. Yeah, Sandy. So in regards to takeout cups, let's just say for like Starbucks for like a standard thing. Oh, I actually have a cup here too. So this cup was from when I did my last market. Did my phone die? Can you guys see? Because it's frozen on my end. Okay. No idea what just happened. This cup right here is about the size of a like a venti. I got it when I was at the last market that I did. And I can kind of just put this on here for you. This will fit to venti. It'll also fit to Trenta. Okay. Again, because this has gift to it, it can fit. And then even if the top is wider, it will still fit. And then this will still be slim. Only what needs to get stretched is going to be stretched. Okay, I think my phone, it froze because my phone was telling me I have a low percentage. If my phone dies, I'm sorry, y'all. Um, I can probably get onto Discord to just like hang out with you guys from my tablet, but I won't continue the live. Hopefully, I covered enough in regards to tutorials for others. But Sandy, you're more than welcome to reach out for more questions there too. But I hope I was thorough enough with this tutorial. And again, I'm just gonna keep working so you'll be able to like rewatch everything at your own speed for anyone else watching. And then because I am using a burgundy color, again, just for contrast, I will be switching over to a white waist yarn. I'm trying to make sure I'm on frame for you guys. Okay. It's gonna keep moving because I don't have my base. I don't know what I just did with it. The teeth that like hold this in place. All right, I know my tail is getting fairly small, but this should allow me to go around at least one more time. So that's just what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go any shorter than that because I don't want to play yarn chicken. And this is all I have left. So I'm going to go ahead and just add it into the middle of the machine. Again, I know I said I wasn't going to talk, but here we are, me talking 7 times around my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was my nail. The light of my drill doesn't help the movie projector thing either. My yarn here is stuck in a little knot, so bear with me because story of my life. My tablet just fell because of the vibrations of the machine. Pick that up. I'm gonna check rows. I'm at 21. My knot per usual. All right, did anyone time me how long to see how long it takes for me to crank it out? I'm technically done. It'll just be a matter of seconds for the waist yarn. All right, so that was one cranked out. I'm going to keep working until my phone dies. Oh, you're making me hungry, Mary. Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 minutes for sure. And then what I like to do is I have multiple batteries for my drill. So I normally have one charging while I'm working on the other to make sure that I can continue just the factory process of cranking. Like I said, I like to crank everything all at once and then work it all up another time. I can't always carry my machine with me, but I can definitely carry my whips with me. So I tend to whip up as much as I can and then go from there. So I'm working on the coffee cozies in addition to some baby headbands. I have a massive pile of baby headbands next to me as well that I'm working on, not only for the 3 markets that I have this week, but also for restocking a local store. The markets will hold priority, of course, but I'm trying to make enough for all 4 things. I just want to make sure you guys are in frame. Again, if you guys have any questions, Mary, I know you were listening, but if you'd like me to touch on anything or answer any questions, please let me know. I would gladly do so for you guys. I'm gonna do maybe another 2 or 3 more, depending on what this little bit of skein that I have left allows. And then I'll probably go back over to pink and work on some baby headbands. Hopefully my phone will allow that before it dies. This, I think, may not be long enough, and I don't want to play yarn chicken, so I'm just going to drop it in. Clear my row counter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are also a great gift in general to make. You can crochet these entirely. I would just say to do the chain the height and then crochet the width, so that at least that has more stretch to it, so that it can fit more cups. But if you do have the knitting machine, this is a great, quick, easy project to make, and you can make coffee cozies. It doesn't have to be for coffee, right? It's for cups, like a cup cozy. So people who like soda, people who like coffee, people who like iced coffee, hot coffee, it works either way. It's double layered, so it's not insulated, but you won't get burnt. The heat won't travel through to you. Also, if it's like an iced coffee, it's acrylic yarn, so it'll absorb the moisture really easily without your hands being soaked. When I say moisture, I mean like condensation of the cup, that kind of stuff. So it's great for year round. Sometimes in the summer, what I'll end up doing, even in the winter time, is I'll take it off my cup. So I already don't remember what I did with the cup that I had earlier. Oh, it's right here on the floor. So I'll take my cup, and let's say I'm taking my koozie off, or I'm done with the cup and I want to toss it. I'll literally just kind of put my hand underneath and slide it onto my wrist. So it's like a wristlet. Ooh. Yeah, I threw the cup away all right. My ring got caught on it. But I'll just put it on my wrist, so it looks like a wrist warmer or like a weird scrunchie. And then whenever I do get a new cup or a refill, I'll just slide it on back onto the cup. So that's another use for it, I guess. Or like, let's say if I'm going out to like a fair or something in the summertime, generally what I like to do is I'm just gonna flip it and then wrap the tail of my working yarn around it so it doesn't get knotted like I did the pink ones earlier. But that's one way to keep it on you. So again, if you're going to like a summer festival or just somewhere you know you're going to drink at some point, it's good to just kind of put on your person or in your bag. And then that way, when you do get your drink, it's easily accessible. You're not digging through your bag for it, that kind of thing. And then I just kind of do crisscross like this so I can stack them up with the waste yarn on the outsides. I'm just going to get caught up here on the comments real quick. Yeah, for sure, Mary. You can definitely embroider onto them as well. If you'd like to give them away, I would suggest doing blue or getting like a boatload of blue yarn. Blue hats are like an anti-bullying campaign that I personally am really fond of. So if you do like I think like blue hats blue hat signifies anti-bullying, and I know there's one really big organization that around August, September takes in blue hats, like takes in donations of blue hats to give to students starting out school. So I think that's a really dope donation and like a really dope organization. So if you do decide to give them away, obviously you can start with your kids first and see what they like. You can play around with different patterns and stuff like that. But I think the hat has to at least be 80% blue, and it could be any shade of blue. And then you don't have to get the addi per se. The addi is sturdier and it will reduce drop stitches. But if you're on a budget and you can only really afford, the first needle dropped my red yarn here. I'm not sure if you saw that, but it's only on 2 of the 3. So going forward with this pattern, I'm going to make sure that I stop at the second black needle. So it's not the end of the world if you mess up. It's just a matter of how you counterbalance your mess ups. Because again, the point of this pattern is to start and stop in the same spot. So if my starting spot adjusted, then I need to adjust my ending spot as well. But you can for sure get the central, Mary. If you can afford the addi, I would suggest the addi just because it's stronger. I got this recently the other day for 100. I'll see if I can find it and I'll add it to Discord. But generally, I think it's like 150 to 200 for the smaller one, and the bigger one is around 250 to 300, sometimes 4 depending on the season. I'll see if I can find it for lower than that. But the standard central, last I looked at it, was like 20 or 30. Now they may be 40. I have no idea what centrals, but it is a lower end. But for adult hats, if you would like to do hats, you don't want the 22 needle. You would want the 46 needle. The 46 or the 44, I think Central has 2 needles less, but it's not the end of the world. It's not even like, it's a centimeter of a difference. Let me see. I'm trying to get caught up on comments while still working. Okay, talking Steven. Oh, I dropped my cozies. No worries. I'm here for you girls. If you have any questions, let me know. I have 10% on here. I know the camera froze, but if my mic let out, let me know too, and I'll repeat anything. Mary, I know you mentioned the addi, and I was talking about the different prices and the difference like between the machines. Addi and Central are more or less the same. The addi is a more, I wouldn't say industrial version, but it is a stronger, like it's better material, so you have less drop stitches, but then you're paying for that in cost. I just recently got this one because I cannot find, for the love of me, I cannot find my old addi, my old small one. This is a 22 needle. I got it for 100 off Amazon. Generally, they're anywhere between 150 to 200, so I got a decent steal, I think so myself. It was right before Black Friday. And then the Centro, I haven't seen the price in a while, but last time I bought the 22 needle, it was like only $20. But granted, that was like 3 years ago. And the prices have gone up because the larger machine, which is what you would need for hats, that has I think 44 on the Centro. With the addi, it has 46. There might be like a 1 centimeter difference in regards to like panel or tubes, but that I got it again for $30 and it's like 60 now. So the prices are going up on them. Now, if you are interested in hats, I did mention a hat donation place that I personally would love to donate to at some point when I'm able to. But it's the blue hats. They take blue hats for like anti-bullying campaign. I would highly suggest them. You're welcome to do research on them and others That's just the one that I personally know of myself. But you would need the bigger machine. The smaller machine is not for hats. You could make them, but it's going to take a lot longer process. And then how do those work, the looms? I don't quite understand those myself. Baby hats will be done on the larger addi machine. That is another project that I need to do myself. I do know how to make those. If any of you are interested, that can be tomorrow's tutorial. Baby hats, because I need to restock baby hats as well. I'm working on baby headbands right now, along with the coffee cozies. But if you guys are interested, please, 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 after this live, just write a comment, baby hat tutorial. I would graciously appreciate it. It'd help with my engagement, but I'll see who all is serious about it. And then ideally, if you can tell me what time works best for you. I am not working tomorrow. I am off. So I will be home. Okay. I feel like while earlier may not be best for most, if I do it earlier, even if no one is on the live with me, you guys can still catch it on the replay later. So it'll be easily accessible to you within the same day, whereas having to wait till the next day to watch it in the morning if you go to bed early. We're all kind of like night owls, so I get it. But I will try to kind of be up here earlier tomorrow. And I would love to do the baby tutorial, the baby hat tutorial. But it will be on the bigger addi machine. So let me know what your guys' thought is on that. I'd love to do it. I would hopefully have both cameras prepped and charged as well. Like I'm going to charge both overnight so that we can have dual angles. You can have a frontal view of me and the machine as well as an overhead like you do right now. Right now, I'm just also live on YouTube. I will be live on StreamYard tomorrow to also help facilitate that too. And again, I flipped it and now I'm just wrapping it around to keep less mess. And then I dropped these other two, which I need to pick up. I think I'm going to end it here. I'm going to switch over to another color or probably just start working on baby headbands. I don't want to confuse anyone who hasn't seen me doing that beforehand, so I'm going to call it a night. Let me just get through these comments really quickly so I can make sure I'm reaching whatever anyone said. Mary, you will have enough room for a few if you hang them on the wall like she does. Yeah, hanging them is the best. I want to get like either PVC pipe or some type of like hook situation to hang them. Just because the legs are pretty long, so the hook itself needs to be like extruding further out from the wall. Yeah, Michelle, I'm thinking large one and small one baby hats are needed. Oh yeah, because baby shower gifts. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll be calling around to a few places to see if they're selling the big sweet potato bags and how much is it. Finally disinherited the 27 jackets. $27 jackets? I'm confused. Oh, finished. Okay, I was like, what? Yeah, I did freeze again momentarily. We can still hear you though. Okay, so I just said what I said for no reason then. Blue is Lily's favorite color. Centrals. 48. Okay, 48 for hats. 40 for kids. In regards to rows, you can still do like the baby hats I do now. I do it on my 46 needle, What makes the difference in hats, honestly, in regards to like size, is tension and then rows. The tension tells you how wide it'll be, and the rows is gonna give you the length of the hat. I'll go into that tomorrow with my baby hats, but I use the bigger knitting machine. You don't particularly need to get 3 sizes. Again, 2 is roughly 1 centimeter. So those 6 needles are 3 centimeters. Those 3 centimeters aren't going to be much difference. What matters is your tension. There is a video that I saw a while back in regards to a woman doing the same number of rows with different tensions, and the difference is astronomical. So it's not, and that's why I'm also very particular on how I hold my working yarn, so that my tension is generally the same throughout, so that all of my products look very uniform. I am playing Camera Battery Chicken. Not sure which yet right now. I have a lot to do before I can start my knitting stuff. Honestly, Mary, if you can only get one to start off with, I would strongly suggest the bigger one, whether it be the Addi or the Central. Ideally, I would say get the 46 needle. It's kind of like embroidery machines, right? You want to get the biggest like working station or embroidery field, whatever the terms are. You'd rather have more access than less. You're very limited with the little one. You can get a lot more projects with the bigger one. And then in theory, if you're selling or making profit off of the bigger one, with that profit, you can get the little one, which again costs less. The price difference shouldn't be all that much different, honestly, depending on the machine. But the bigger one is definitely worth that extra spending if you have it. They're $180 here for the addi 22 in Canada. Well, Sandy, why is everything so much expensive in Canada? Because I'm assuming it's in the main company, if I'm not mistaken, is in Germany. So it has to go through the US customs. Did my phone die? No, I'm just frozen. Okay. Inflation. 48 needle oh my god, for $100. Chill. Never spend $100 on that machine. Honestly, 62 is a little expensive, but I get it. Please never spend $100 on the Central. This cost me $100, and this is 10 times better. Hey, Tina. Need extra battery. I need to charge my phone, quite frankly. 22 Central is about 32. That seems reasonable. The 48 needle Central was on 100. Oh, that's a ridiculous amount of money. 62 sounds reasonable. I would not get that machine for anything over $80. Anything over $80, quite frankly, is disrespectful. I think I have one, Mary. If I can find a box to put it in, I will gladly ship it to you if I haven't already given it to my coworker. Because I think I told her I was going to give it to her. I don't remember if I ever did or not. But I had Centrals because that's what I started out with. But once I realized that I was dropping stitches and I was wasting more time than I needed to fixing it, I did invest in bigger machines or better machines, correction. Night, Michelle. I feel like you'd probably get that lower price. Yeah. You paid $80 for yours. That makes a little bit more sense though with the price change for the 48 needle. My friend that I shared in Discord has her hung. Yeah. I want to hang mine. Right now mine are just like chilling on top of the couch. Well, not in use. But upstairs in the craft room, they're also just sitting down. I do want to hang mine. Okay, there's another girl that's done it too. A Crafty Concept. She has videos there too, but I think she has K's for C's for Crafty Concept. Hers are hung as well, and she has more intricate tutorials. Like she has a bear plushie, that kind of stuff. She also has some egg pieces. Someone else that's really good for tutorials is Levine. what's her name? Something Levine. I used to watch her all the time. I want to say Nancy, but I feel like that sounds wrong. Something Levine. Um, she has books too, book patterns on the addies, and again interchangeable with centros. I haven't seen the videos yet. I think I opened one up, but I haven't like fully watched it. Maybe after this, I'll give it a watch. You embroidered 27 jackets with 16 color changes. Good God, on a single needle? I pray for you, Mary, because that sounds frustrating. But you got it done. You did what you could with what you had, and that's very, very that's a big accomplishment. So you should be very proud of that, Mary. For sure, Sandy. Yes, get the bigger one, Mary. Definitely, Sandy. I'm watching for a Janome multi-needle too. Big dreams. Mary, I bought a 22 on Temu for 18. Okay, yeah, Temu does have them as well. I think it's also the currency exchange too, for sure. Most likely we'll hold off on buying a knitting machine for an addi. Seems to have better rating. Oh yeah, no. The addi is 10 times better, but you're also paying 10 times the price. I would suggest, if you're scared in regards to like investing in one, the Centro is a decent machine, and then honestly you can probably give it to one of the girls, or again you can give it to a friend. Like if I still have mine, I will gladly give it to you because it's a great starter machine. It's kind of like any craft you do, you don't want to always invest the most in it, because once you kind of start it up, you're like, okay, yeah, no, this is not for me. You wouldn't want to have spent $100 to $200 on an addi when you could have spent 60 to 80 on a centro, if that makes sense. But then who has the loom? Mary, do you have the loom, or was it Michelle? I don't remember. But if you have the loom and you like using it, this is very similar but just more advanced. Like the crank does the looming for you. Stuffed animals would be cool further in future after learning the machine. Yeah, so there are some plushies you can do on here that make, like, I personally don't like making origurumis. I've thought about making plushies. I'm very particular in regards to like the eye thing, and just like I'm just concerned for safety. I don't know. I personally don't like plushies. I've thought of making loveys, but again, it's all personal preference. There are tutorials on all of that. Got a $500 payday for good for Christmas. Hell yeah. Margurumi was pretty popular at the craft fair. You know, origurumis are always popular. I just personally do not care to make them. Agree 100%. Howdy everyone. Hi Lupin Home. If you find it, I'll pay for shipping. Sherry, you made it. Sherry, are you Sandy? Is Sherry the girl you were telling me that does the Monday cranks? Thanks for joining, Sherry. Hopefully, I'll be able to join one of your lives soon. Before I get off and my phone dies, you guys want to see my enormous stack of baby onesies that I have so far? I call it enormous because it's a lot to me, but for others, it might just be like a whatever. Okay. Drum roll, ladies, drum roll. I have 1, 2, 3 sizes that I made up. Okay. This is my nice little stacky stack. This, if I'm not mistaken, is the 1 to 4T that I make. This is my largest size, this one. You can't fully see everything. Let me get further out. So I'll be able to tell you how I can tell the difference. And it's all on length. So the length of this is, I want to say 16 inches. Don't quote me on this. I have it written somewhere. This here is going to be my 6 to 12 month headbands. All of these right here, some I've kind of like, not shriveled, but they shrunk a little. Like they're resting, so they tend to look a little bit smaller. So this is my 6 to 12, and then here I have some newborn ones that I made by accident. So at Thanksgiving, I was cranking out a lot at my aunt's house, and this row, my 0 to 6 months, I do 65 rows. I don't know why, but I don't know if it was just me being tired or me just being in a rush. I only did 60 rows. So I introduced a newborn size with the 60 rows. Again, every 5 rows is an inch. So 60 is what? 50. No, I can't do math. 60 divided by 5. It'll be 12 inches. Good God. The numbers. This is about 12 inches. But yeah, so I'm going to be working, as you can tell, I've been doing a lot of green, tan, and mustard, and that's just because those are the same colors as the baby booties that I'm making right now. So these have been very popular colors that are selling. People are getting the baby booties in conjunction, the crochet baby booties in conjunction to the headbands. So I was like, okay, let me focus on these. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 of the green. I have no more green at the store, so these 5 up here is actually going to be for store stock. If I do well at my markets, God willing, and I sell out of this plus what I have on my basket, then I'm going to be taking from store stock. But ideally, I do want to replenish the store sometime next weekend. Well, at the beginning of next week, correction. I have one last market so far on the 15th, and after that, I don't have any more product. I don't have any more markets for the year. At least not that I've signed up for, or I've signed up for some, but I'm waitlisted. I haven't heard back on any of those. I'll kind of check in here and there, but generally anything else is going to go to the store. I'm going to leave a handful of things for the market, and when I say a handful, I'm not taking anything more than 5 of any color, of any size to the market, because I need to restock the store. The store has been doing well. It's passive income. Once I get the product there, it literally sells itself. So that's my main focus, and that's why I have so many. I'm going to get on this because I keep talking and I'm not getting anything done. So let me again just kind of get caught up on comments, and then I'm going to say bye to you guys if my phone allows. Yes, I've been meaning to look at your channel, Sherry. Thank you, Mary. I have a set of 9 colors that I use, the only 9 colors that I use in regards to yarn for my brand, at least in regards to this size. If I do have other colors, it's going to be for my chunky yarn, and I still try to keep it close to these colors. These are like my brand colors. Yeah, I mean, the crank could also hurt your wrist. Any of this hurts your wrist, to be frank. But girls, I don't see any more questions. Again, thanks for joining me. I'm going to get off for now. I might take a little break and then hop on Discord, if not TikTok, if my phone charges enough, but I can definitely get on TikTok. I can get on Discord with my tablet. So I'll definitely probably hop over there for a little bit, assuming I can hear you and I find my headphones, because without them, it'll be pointless. I'll just be a visual and muted. But yes, thanks again for keeping me company. I've been on here probably for like 2 hours now. I'm gonna call it a night for YouTube. And again, just thank you for watching. If you are interested in the baby hat tutorial, please leave me a comment outside of the live chat, like an actual video comment once we end this. And please, just write baby hat tutorial, and then ideally what time works best for you, whether it be mornings, evenings, afternoon, whatever. Obviously, I'd like for the most of you to be present so that if you have any questions, you can ask them as it's happening, but you're also welcome to catch it on the replay. We will be doing the baby hat tutorial tomorrow. I'm going to keep working on the baby onesies or baby onesies, baby headbands, and then the coffee cozies as well for tonight. I'm going to stop rambling now. Later, girls. Thanks again for watching.